and welcome back to my channel. I'm joined today by my husband and our newborn baby boy Rufus, and I haven't done a sit down video since I think Iris was this small, so apologies. I've just been really enjoying the daily vlogs, but I thought I would discuss my breastfeeding journey because I find it I find it really interesting to hear everybody else's, and ours hasn't been very straightforward at all. Rufus struggled to get back up to birth weight, even though my supply was really good, and it's just been quite difficult and quite stressful. So grab yourself a cup of tea. Mine has oat milk in it because I'm currently going dairy free, which I will just explain to you more in the video. But take a cup of tea because this could be a little bit of a long video. So I'll start from the beginning. So Rufus was born at 8 pounds. He was roughly 15 and a half, and because he did a poo on the way out, they decided to round him up instead of down, which now I'm looking at it, I'm like, maybe we should just rounded it down. That extra ounce maybe would have made a slight bit of difference. So basically they didn't weigh him till 3 hours after he was born, so he was quite swollen by the time they finally did weigh him, which to me I think plays a part in why he lost as much weight as what he did. Because he only lost a slight bit of weight, then he lost more weight, then he lost more weight, then he lost more weight, then he went static. And by week 5 or 6 we were really starting to struggle with his weight gain, so I was asked to pump, and thankfully I was working with Ardo and trialling their Calypso breast pump, and I couldn't have wished to have had that at a better time, because all of a sudden they wanted me to pump as much milk as I could and get as much milk into him as I can, even though I was producing more than enough breast milk and he was getting more than enough from me. He just wasn't gaining. We couldn't work out why. So we finally discovered that there's a potential of CMPA, and he has a cow's milk allergy, because since I've cut the dairy his sickness has got a lot better and he just seems a lot more content. We still get a little bit of sickness, but then I suppose all babies are slightly sticky. But it's nothing like it was before, where like every feed I'd put him down and he'd vomit. After every feed, within an instant, he would burp and vomit, and it was just getting quite a lot. And even for a while, it got to the point where I wasn't producing. I was producing enough milk, but I couldn't produce enough milk into the pump because he was feeding from me. We gave him some cow's milk formula as a little bit of top up in the morning and at night with some Gaviscon in it for potential reflux. And that was the week that, although he was having 6-7 ounces of milk extra, he was losing weight. So to me that screamed that there was definitely a dairy problem, because by this point I'd already started questioning it, because on some days I was having more dairy, he was more sick, and days I was having less dairy, he was less sick. So to me it just seemed to be a little bit odd. There was still sickness, but just not as much. So we then was told we had to get 16 ounces of milk into him a day, which I think is extremely excessive when he's already being fed anyway. So I started to try and pump, which then meant that I needed to get as much milk pumped as quickly as possible with 2 other children running around, which is when the pump came in really handy, because obviously it's a double pump, which meant I could just sit there with, I have actually made a makeshift those bra things that you put them in. I just cut a hole in an old belly band, so that works, so I don't have to worry about holding it, and I could pump. I've been pumping at like 120 mils a time at that point, which is obviously a lot more than what I would get if I was sat there trying to pump on each side. Like obviously I'd get that amount, but it would take a lot longer, and I don't have that time, especially not when I'm feeding him anyway and trying to deal with 2 other children and keep my house on top of, like, keep my house tidy and socialise and everything. It was just getting a little bit on top of me, so I'm really grateful for that, because let's be honest, pumping can be a chore. The other thing that I've been finding is that now that he's having he's having about 6 ounces, if that, maybe 4 or 5 ounces a day of my milk top-ups now, and we finally had a big gain. He gained 100 grams, so we got to see a paediatrician, but as far as I'm aware, well, as far as I'm concerned, I think dairy was the issue, but we obviously, that is just us guessing more than anything, so obviously we'll have to get that confirmed before we just say yes, he's definitely got a dairy intolerance or an allergy. Another thing that I found from pumping is something that I wanted to ask Brad about, is how he feels about it, because a lot of men obviously really enjoy the feeding the baby stage, and a lot of them can struggle to find that bond because they aren't giving that bottle. And although there's other ways that you can bond with a baby, a lot of men obviously find that quite a crucial thing. So Brad, how do you feel in regards to when I'm pumping, like when you can obviously do more for Rufus?
Yeah, I think it plays a big part in how I can create a bond with him, I suppose, a bit easier. Like you said, there's many things I can do with him and, you know, bond with him. But there's something about you breast pumping that gives, I think, us as a whole, or any family, more freedom. Because once you start doing that, you know, you can start thinking about getting more of a supply, more of a, I want to say backlog, that seems the wrong word, but you know.
A stash.
Yeah, a stash. And it just, I think it opens up a bit more freedom to eventually have them nights where, you know, you might want to go out for a dinner yourself, and I can be at home with Rufus and have baby and dad time, sort of, without worrying about what I'm going to feed him. So I think that's a huge thing, really. It's definitely a big...
We're just watching him. He's just listening to everything Brad is saying. He's so distracting because
he's like staring at what I'm saying. But yeah, I think that's the big thing. I mean, when we had Lucas, he was primarily bottle fed for lots of different reasons. And that was due to a weight thing, really, as well. And although breast is best and everything, for me it was like, without, like, unknowingly, it was a way I bonded. It was a way for me to bond with him a lot quicker and easier, I think. And then with Iris, where she was breastfed for a year, it did take me longer to build that bond with Iris than it did with Lucas when they were newborns. So, and it seems such a silly thing. Like I said, there's many ways of bonding with them, but I think the fact that you're satisfying that need yourself as a father, I think, is a huge thing. To be able to do that with Rufus, while still using breast milk, I think, yeah, it really does help create that bond. And yeah, since Nicole has been using the breast pumps, it just like I said, it opens up that sense of freedom and the enableability for me to bond with him. There's many ways I can bond, like I said, but when it comes to feeding, when you just otherwise cannot make that bond in any other way, then to be able to do that, it definitely opens things up, and it's I think it's a wonderful thing, really.
It's also little things, like sometimes I'll go for a bath and he'll be really fussy, and I fed him loads and loads and loads, and he's trying to cluster feed, but like I feel like I haven't washed in days. I feel grotty, and I really just need that hour just to go and have a bath, and just to be like, just to have some space away from Rufus. Because although I never, obviously it's not like I ever want to be away from my children like in a negative way, sometimes you do just need that mum time. And obviously Brad gets to go to work, and I know that's not necessarily the funnest job in the world, but it's what you got to do. But in a way, he still gets that, even if it's just a walk to work, he gets that silence. And obviously for me, I don't really get that, especially not with the two others as well. So it means if he's having a really fussy day, that he can have a top up, like when it's like while I'm having a bath, and I can just relax for a little bit, because he can get, like, at the end of the day, a breastfed baby can get quite hard work after a while, especially during the nights when they're cluster feeding, the 4-month regression, like sleep regression. And so I'm just feeding Rufus because he got fussy, but it's just nice that Brad can help out a little bit, especially that means that I can go out and do something. I got bought a spa night for Christmas from my dad and my stepmom, and I'm going away with my stepmom overnight and my stepsister, and it's just nice. That means that I can go and not worry about the fact that will he be fed, like, or well, I can't leave because he can't be fed, and obviously he can't starve. So it's just, and obviously with his potential dairy allergy, we can't just go to shop and buy a pot of formula and just give that to him. So it's helpful in that sense as well. So what I got with my kit was I got a bag, which is great because if I am going, like for example when I go away for the spa break, I'm going to need to pump because I can't just go away for a night and just forget about the fact that my boobs have to produce milk. I'm going to end up with mastitis, I'm going to end up very uncomfortable, and I'm going to look like Pamela Anderson gone wrong. So obviously it's really important that I take the pump with me. But obviously it's nice to have a really nice compact bag that it goes in, so it's not just shoved in the bottom of your own bag, because that's just obviously you're gonna end up breaking things, losing things. It's gonna get really dirty, and obviously it's meant to be quite a sterile piece of equipment. So obviously you don't want to just be shoving it in the bottom of your dirty bag, because let's be honest, all us women's bags have like the most ridiculous rubbish in it. Especially if your mum, you probably got crumbs from like mini cheddars and everything at the bottom of your bags. So it's nice to have its own little compartment. So you get the bag, and with mine I got a separate little bag as well, which you can put freezer blocks in, which keeps your milk cool. So obviously while I'm on this spa like night, there's no way am I pumping and dumping this milk. Absolutely not. Like nothing upsets me more than pumping and having to dump it. I'm going to be pumping it, putting it into freezer bags, and then asking the hotel to store it for me, which I'm sure they will do. I've asked hotels before in the past when I've done photography jobs, so when I've done weddings. So obviously and then what I can do is put it in to that bag and keep it safe in the little pots on my way back. I could even ask them if they would potentially keep the freezer blocks as well cold for me, so the journey home, I don't think we're going to be going too far, but the journey home I can keep it all cold, and then when I can come put it back in the freezer or in the fridge, and then he can use it. So your pump looks like this. You plug in your wire there. You can put in some batteries. I think it takes 6 AA's looking at it. I've not tried that. And you've got your pump inserts where you put your wires, and to obviously connect it to the bottles. When you turn it on, the best advice I was given is to keep your vacuum low and your cycles high until the milk starts to flow, and then you put the cycles low and the vacuum high. So that's probably the best tip to give if you want to make sure you're getting the best suction for your milk supply and to get the most milk out as you can. So I got a lot of bottles of mine. I've lost count of how many there are. There's a lot of them, which is really great, especially if I'm giving him top-ups. I can just individually put the 45 ml in every single bottle, and then I can say to Brad, it's in the fridge, just grab one of those. You attach your pump onto them. You attach the suction bit to the bottle, and you're all away. So you've got a choice of, you can either use one, or you can use the double pump. It's entirely up to you how you want to do it. You also get a hand pump. Now I will be completely honest with you and say I absolutely despise hand pumps. I much prefer the electric pumps. I find them really like uncomfortable on your wrist. It's really tedious, and I suppose if you've got to sit there for an hour just doing this motion, it's going to give you cramp. So I really don't like it. But at the same time, there's times that if he's sleeping and I don't really want to, like especially as he gets older, and I don't want to pump, but I might feel really uncomfortable and he might be sleeping, and I can just use the pump for a couple of minutes just to relieve that pressure. And it's also really good if I'm just popping to do a photo shoot for a couple of hours and he's had a feed without me, and I just want to relieve the pressure. I don't actually want to do a full pump. So in a way the hand pump is good for that, but I do not recommend personally using the hand pump all the time, especially if you've got the electric pump. They're so much easier to use. The other thing you can buy is the Ardo freezer bags, which I would recommend. So at the moment we're currently going through the dairy elimination process. So obviously there's still dairy in my system, there's still dairy in Rufus's system. So there's no point in pumping and storing it at the moment, because in 3 weeks time, if he does have a dairy intolerance and it's confirmed, I'm not going to have a chance to use it, because obviously I have to throw it away. So the freezer bags are absolutely great for that. So obviously I can store the milk and then Brad can use it 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later. The other thing that's really, really great is a nipple balm. I haven't had to use very much of it this time. I think my boobs were sort of used to it from the fact that Iris has only really stopped being fed about a year ago. So obviously I don't know if that's made a difference, because with Iris I needed a lot of nipple balm. But I've really enjoyed the Ardo one. Whenever I've got sore from the pump, I've put it on, and within a couple of hours I've gone to feed Rufus again. I don't even feel any pain, so it's just a real positive. And it also doubles up as a really good lip balm, which I don't know if anyone's ever tried that, but it's really good. I think if it's going to clear your nipples up pretty quickly, it's going to clear your lips up pretty quickly. So I definitely really enjoyed using it as a lip balm as well. The other thing that I've been using, which isn't an Ardo product, but it's the Hacker Pump, and I've been using this to catch my milk supply during feeding Rufus. So obviously where I've got quite a lot of milk now, more milk than I actually need, because obviously I'm trying to get top ups. There's times I'll be sat there feeding Rufus and I just feel my other side go. So the Hacker Pump is really, really good for that, because that means that I can catch that milk and that's not going to waste as well. And there's been times I've got a whole 45-50 mils from that, and that's a complete top up anyway. So that's a really good product as well to invest in if you're going to be breastfeeding. On that note, I'm going to end this video. If you've got any questions, or if there's anything you ever want to talk about, I'm an open book when it comes to breastfeeding. I'm always happy to chat. There's been a lot of struggles. It's not been an easy ride for me. I've really had to persevere, and yeah. So thank you for watching, and I will see you soon.